It's February and love is in the air. You've heard the term, it was a labor of love, right? It means that something was done out of joy and not for any type of reward other than the satisfaction of having done it. Think about caring for a sick friend by dropping off their favorite soup, or baking cookies for the elderly person down the street, or offering to babysit for a parent who could use a few hours to themselves. These are all things that we may choose to do that take effort on our part, but we do them out of love for the person for whom it is done and nothing more. That's what makes it a labor of love. Well, finding out a few interesting tidbits about Valentine's Day was a labor of love for me to all of you because it took a little digging. And some of what I found out about Valentine's Day wasn't so lovely. Without completing a full fledged literature review, here are three interesting things I discovered about the origins of Valentine's Day. One account claims that Valentine's Day was observed as part of a romantic festival in ancient Rome when young men would sacrifice a dog and a goat, skin the animals, and whip women with the skins. And women would actually line up for this ritual because it was thought that the beating would ensure fertility. And everyone was naked. Okay. Then there are several martyrdom stories associated with various men named Valentine connected to February 14th, including an account of the imprisonment of Saint Valentine of Rome for ministering to Christians persecuted under the Roman Empire in the 3rd century. An 18th century embellishment to the legend claims he wrote the jailer's daughter a letter signed Your Valentine as a farewell before his execution. I'm just guessing here, but perhaps this is how we've come to declare our undying love for someone. Finally, I most enjoyed reading about this transition from early Valentine's Day history to present day. In 18th century England, it grew into an occasion in which couples expressed their love for each other by presenting flowers, offering confectionery, and sending greeting cards known as, you guessed it, Valentines. Valentine's Day symbols that are used today include the heart-shaped outline, doves, and the figure of the winged Cupid. Since the 19th century, handwritten valentines have given way to mass-produced greeting cards. In Italy, St. Valentine's Day keys are given to lovers as a romantic symbol and an invitation to unlock the giver's heart. And here are the top 5 Valentine's Day facts from 2021. The total Valentine's Day spending was $21.8 billion dollars, or $164.76 per person celebrating the occasion. Men spent more than twice as much as women at a cost of $231 spent by men versus $101 spent by women. The amount Americans spent on jewelry was 4.1 billion, on flowers was 2 billion, and on candy was 2 billion, totaling 8.1 billion dollars. And overall, online dating activity increased by 33% across the US between February 1st and February 14th. Finally, it's reported that in 2021, 1 in 6 married couples met online. What I found in terms of the evolution of Valentine's Day was interesting, and not all what I expected, to say the least. For instance, how on earth was the beating of a woman associated with her ensuring her ability to reproduce other human beings? As leaders, sometimes we confuse the breaking down of someone with constructive criticism as making of someone into a stronger leader, but that is hardly the case. Or what was the benefit in making a prisoner out of St. Valentine who is trying to do good to other human beings? Sometimes servant leaders are mistaken for weak leaders, and that couldn't be farther from the truth when we consider that the very definition of a servant leader implies putting others first. And how have we, as a modern day society, come to accept superficial romantic symbolism in the forms of cartoon hearts and flowers as a true representation of love that can sometimes be best expressed as a sacrifice of our time, energy, and a willingness to be vulnerable? The most effective leaders understand that it takes courage and bravery to be vulnerable enough to lead as the person they really are instead of leading as the title they hold. Exploring those connections is my goal for this month, and I hope you'll join me. When I talk with my allies and action crew, we're going to explore the types of leaders that most impacted their lives, what those situations were that made such an indelible impact on their lives, and perhaps help to shape their own leadership philosophy. Then, in my lived experiences segment, we're going to speak with Michael Mila, a track coach who understands that leadership requires the ownership of the types of interactions we initiate with those we lead, and to what extent we're responsible for the outcomes of those interactions. Finally, in my Real Conversation segment, we'll be speaking with the founder and CEO of the CHAMP Group, Michelle Beauchamp, who is a leadership development subject matter expert and a certified John Maxwell trainer. She's going to help us understand the correlation between the genuine love of people, all people, and effective leadership. Now, during the second half of 2021, it was impressed upon me to ask leaders how they were feeding their leadership soul. And it's an important question. Often the response was, I hadn't thought about it. I'd like to encourage you to be intentional about feeding your leadership soul this year. It's an important way to practice self care. Since February is the month of love, let's explore one more facet of love from the perspective of self care. I believe that unless we take the time to be intentional about nurturing ourselves, we aren't equipped to give our best to those we lead. That said, I've created a new tool that I think will help leaders at any leadership level, from independent contributors to CEOs, feed their leadership soul in a way that helps them realize just how resilient they are as people who happen to be leaders. The tool I've created is actually a journal with designated sections for you to draw what you feel, write a caption to describe your drawing, and reflect on what you have drawn and written in a journal entry for 30 days straight. This is meant to be an intentional activity. The tool is designed for you to always know what day you're on, so that even if you miss a day, sit down and try to remember the events of the previous day the minute you get caught up. Be intentional about not letting a day go by without practicing this act of self-care. It should only take you about 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm going to be your accountability partner. Every day for 30 days, I'll share my art, caption, and journal entry just as a thought starter for you. Then it will be your turn, and please remember that there is no right or wrong way for you to do this. Think of it as sharing our lived experiences together. Most importantly, do not put pressure on yourself to prioritize artistry over content or length of journal entry over substance. If you've expressed all you need to with a stick figure and one word, it's your journal entry. And here it is: Everyday Resiliency, a 30-day reflective art journal. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this tool that I created. In 2019, I was going through some things, and I decided to really focus on my journaling. And as a matter of fact, I was part of a leadership group, and our leader at the time said, we're going to draw art and we're going to do it for 30 days. I am not an artist. As you can see, this is supposed to be artwork. But over time, the more I did it, the more pleased I was with my art, not because I got better, but because it started to mean something to me. And every day for 30 days, I drew and I journaled and I reflected. And it was one of the most impactful times of my life. And so I want to share it with you because when I went back 2 years ago into that journal, I realized just how resilient I'd become. And that's what my hope is for you. So let me give you a few readings. Day 4. It's a picture of an empty box and a lot of questions. And here's the caption: Very emotional day. Didn't realize what outpatient would mean for mom at her age and as daddy's caregiver. Hard to be here and watch. Feeling empty as I try to distract myself with Facebook and LinkedIn. Seem like everyone is killing it but me. How much longer? Or day 10. Here's a picture that I drew that's supposed to be of a speed bump in the road of life. This morning, as I reflected, it occurred to me that mom says I always had a strong sense of right and wrong. My psychological safety is being compromised in terms of fairness. This, on top of suppressing a lot of frustration lately, I'm sure contributed to the blow up at my husband. Doesn't excuse it, but I understand it. Tired of feeling like I'm not in control of my life. A little further on, day 12, this is supposed to be a rubber band. Fell and dropped my laptop. Had just sent the statement of work to Sony. Needed to get working on the presentation. Needed to print out my courses to update before meeting with Steve. Needed to send testimonials. Had meetings. How is God with me in this? How is this having my back, God? And now my back, hip, wrists, and knees hurt. Geek Squad has my laptop. It's a waiting game. God, you couldn't get my attention any other way. And my husband was hit in the car again, twice in 2 weeks. Really, God? Day 24. This is me, and the captain says, waiting to exhale. I feel like I'm on a launching pad, getting ready to blast off into my destiny. Can't wait. Then, of course, I heard Dr. David Jeremiah. The difficulties are part of the process to get us to the next level. And just towards the end of my 30 days, day 28, this is a collage. And what's meaningful and impactful about this collage is the colors are going from dark to light. And here was my journal entry. This was a good day. Started off a little anxious because I had planned to be at the retreat much sooner, but I still got there on time. It was different from what I expected. I really had no expectations, and I really enjoyed myself. Most of us are on the same journey of just figuring it out. When I pray, I try to be aware that there is someone worse off than me somewhere, but my challenges are still challenges. And the art activity today allowed me to depict what I'm feeling right now, coming out of the darkness and into the light. This tool has one purpose: feeding your leadership soul by investing the time to recognize and appreciate your everyday resiliency. And if you're interested in getting a copy for yourself or for a friend, please send an email to jazzy@dranita.com. The idea behind the tool is every day you'll see one of my drawings and you'll read one of my journal entries, and then you'll have a space to draw and journal yourself. We go back and forth like that for 30 days. And at the end, when you go back and reflect, you'll be amazed at what you discover. And for the first 5 people who send an email to jazzy@dranita.com, I will gift you that tool. As we contemplate and celebrate love in its various facets, I encourage you to join me each Saturday this month. Until next time, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real.